I Don't Get It
Podcast. Hey guys, welcome to the I Don't Get It podcast. This is Ashley.
This is Lauren.
And this is Naz.
Hopefully you guys know the difference between Naz and Lauren's voices.
It's so funny reading in the Facebook group. First of all, if you guys haven't joined the Facebook
group is on fire.
It is
everyone.
lit as fuck. It is lit as fuck. You guys need to join. But so many people are like, I can tell the difference between Naz and Lauren's
Those are
voice.
true fans, everyone.
Those are babies. Those are the
I don't get babies. I don't get babies.
We should come up with a
We should have
name
an
for
elder.
our fans.
Yeah, you're right.
We
should.
gotta come up with our own language because
Yeah,
I'm not
we
stealing
can't- we
anything
can't
from
steal
Crystalia,
Crystalia.
'cause if he blocks me, my life's over.
You guys, if
what
you
would
don't
it
listen,
be? The don't getters? That's kind of like, it
call it
has to
something
be like
cuter.
one word.
the IDG, yeah, the ID, what? The ID.
IDGI.
The IDGIs.
IDGs.
Okay. Whatever, guys.
Sounds
We'll
like
come
a
up with one.
sorority.
Ashley, tell us what we got
Anyway,
going on
okay,
today.
so one of our good friends reps Match.com, and she gave us this really interesting study. This woman, this doctor named Dr. Ellen Fisher, does a study on relationships, you know, it's romantically based, right, guys?
Yes, it is romantically based. It's from Match.com.
I think she's an anthropologist, sociologist, and so she studies dating, and she comes out with new statistics each year, and I think this sounds fascinating. So before I ramble about what she does, we'll just get her on the phone right now.
Yeah, and I just want to say I'm so excited for this.
There are so many interesting statistics
her
we have to talk about.
study is so interesting, you guys.
Hey guys, we have Dr. Helen Fisher on the line. Dr. Fisher, can you tell us what your study is and how often you do it, what you're looking for?
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm the chief scientific advisor to Match.com, the dating site, and we do an annual study called Singles in America. We do not poll the Match members. It's a national representative sample of Americans based on the U.S. Census. So we've got the right number of blacks, whites, Asians, Latino, gay, straight, rural, suburban, urban, every part of the country, and every age group, actually, from age 18 to 71 plus. And so it's the 8th year that we've done this. I start in August. We create about 200 questions. We poll the public, all single people, and right before Christmas, we put it all together and we find various trends. So every year we look for new trends, and now we've got data on over 35,000 singles. It's the largest data set in America of singles and singles behavior. So that's one of the things that I do, and I do that with them.
That's amazing. Just in time for Valentine's Day, Helen.
Absolutely, that's the way we always do it. You know, we get all the data in December. It destroys Christmas trying to put it all together, and then we come out with our press release right now and and talk about it.
So what are the big trends?
You say there's a single Sunday where everyone goes on more dates than ever?
They go online to date more than ever, right?
Yes, and it's a very particular time. You know, Match.com, I mean, they trace who's going on their site, and actually it's the first Sunday after Christmas this past year. And I think it's something like 8:47 at night. I don't know. I've forgotten that detail, but yeah, but you can watch these things, and I'm not surprised because at holidays they make you think about where you're going, what you have, what you don't have, and at Christmas time, if you don't have anybody to go to the various parties to, and your mother's constantly asking you how come you don't have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, et cetera, and everybody else is doing other things, it's a time of reflection. And of course, if you do have somebody in your life, what do you do with it? I mean, are they close enough to you so you want to introduce them to friends and family? That you want to bring them to the business Christmas party? So all of these are markers. They're the annual sort of markers of where you are in your life, what you're looking for. And Valentine's Day is, of course, dedicated to romance. So it's a very particular, poignant one for all of us.
Right, and also single awareness. So we want to start Single Awareness Day. So Helen, we want to start with what I thought was one of your most interesting points is robogasms. Can you kind of go into robogasms, what they are, and what you guys found in your study?
Well, I was absolutely astonished at this. I'm glad you picked it up first. We really just wanted to know whether you would have sex with a robot. And 31% of men said yes, and 15% of women said yes. Well, that doesn't surprise me. Actually, I would have thought that it would be a little higher, but just because it's something new. But what really blew my mind, and it did blow my mind, was that 39% of men and 56% of women regard it as cheating. If they had a partner who had a sex doll and was having sex with that sex doll, they would regard it as cheating. And that really made me think about this. And, people are so worried about having their jobs be taken away from them by robots. And it suddenly occurred to me, my God, these people think that, a robot is going to take their lover away, too. So I really had to think about it. And I began to think, there's intimacy during sex. It's not just the actual orgasm, but it's the laughter and the intimacy and the kissing and, saying I love you and all of that. And, of course, you're not getting that if your partner's upstairs with a doll.
I think it depends on, if you're comfortable with your partner, masturbating on their own and, you don't have to have sex with just your partner, but you can masturbate when you're alone. That kind of determines if you're okay having sex with the robot or not.
I wouldn't think that I don't think masturbating is at all cheating or annoying. I think with the robot, I would never consider it cheating with the robot because it's not going to come along with the intimacy and the emotion and all that. However, I wouldn't like it. I don't want him to do that. That's weird. What's the difference between that and a vibrator, though? What this robot?
Well, this is my question.
Well, to me,
this is my question. And I think what the difference. I've been thinking about this over, and I think the real difference is, these dolls are expensive. If you pay $10,000 for a doll, you're going to use it regularly. Whereas people tend to masturbate when their partner's out of town, when their partner is just doing something else. It's not one of these sort of regular things. They haven't invested more than I don't know what a vibrator costs, but probably $20 or whatever. So you sort of figure that, the vibrator is something that you use when the other partner isn't around. Whereas with a doll, it's almost the investment is such that you're going to be doing, when you cook dinner for somebody, you have a nice dinner, and boom, they go upstairs to have sex with the doll.
Right.
So,
it's more of a...
to buy a doll.
Frequency.
Right. To me, I think it's more of I personally think it's more of a replacement, like you were saying. And when this came out, because I just knew about this a month ago. I don't know how long these have been around, but everyone listening, there are now female robots that can have sex with men. My question to you, Helen, is: are there robots that women can have sex with?
Ask.
I don't know at this point, but if they don't have them, I'm sure that they will get them. I wonder if women will be as interested in it because, our data show that only 15% of women would have sex with a robot, whereas 31%, which is almost 1 out of 3 men, would have sex with a robot. So I guess... probably a lot of women have vibrators, but...
I was going to say, isn't that like a dildo? Why do we need the whole body? Because that's creepy to me.
That's intimacy,
Exactly.
I guess, to look at a face.
Well, there's people that are more introverted that stay at home, that don't have a lot of friends, aren't as social, that I could see this being a market for. However, I just want to throw out there, I think it's cheating. If I go in the room and you are fucking a robot, you are cheating.
What is the Ryan Gosling movie?
Not...
Well, I would just think it was a lack of intimacy because, Any kind of stimulation of the genitals drives up the dopamine system in the brain and can push you over the threshold into either staying in love or triggering love.
Staying on
With orgasm, there's a real flood of oxytocin and vasopressin linked with feelings of attachment. And if your partner is having sex with a doll, you are not getting that flood of dopamine along with energy and optimism and focus and motivation. You're not getting that oxytocin along with feelings of attachment and calm and security. So it's not just denying you the sex. It's not just denying you the psychology of the intimacy and the laughter and the fun, but it's also denying you of various physiological release that is actually good for the brain and body.
I feel like you are burning calories, though, so you probably get a sick workout out of it. But what were you going to say, Lauren?
I had 2 things, actually, but staying on the topic of technology, a very interesting fact that I saw in your study was that those who have cable or satellite TV increase their chance of orgasm by 4 points.
Percentage.
That's
and then,
insane.
or Hulu or Netflix by 3.6.
Yeah. Well, my hypothesis is that if you've got those kinds of things, you spend a lot of time at home, and if you spend a lot of time at home, you're going to have your girlfriend or boyfriend over a lot more, and so you've got more alternatives to do it. And it's my only guess. What do you think?
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't have cable. Ashley and Lauren have cable, and I'm like, if this is the fucking reason that I'm not orgasming as much as Lauren, that I'm signing up for, satellite.
But it
or
also
cable.
says that if you have HBO or Showtime, you have 14 times more likely to have sex. And my theory
That's
here...
Game of Thrones right there.
My theory
Sex
here
in the City.
is Game of Thrones and like these shows that bring like men and women together.
They bring them together, but also they're the only places where you can see like sex
and
on
you see
TV.
sex on TV. So you see it, you watch it with the person you like, and then you have sex.
Right.
It's so
exactly.
It's amazing.
And you also have a lot to talk about, because you're sharing the time together. Now, I mean, I'm a person who just didn't even own a television until very recently. I mean, TV was around when I grew up, but I have an identical twin sister, and I just never got an interest in it. And I mean, I live in New York. I go out every night. I'm in all day writing. I'm a writer and an academic, and I go out every night. So I'm not a TV watcher, but my new boyfriend is a TV watcher, and I can really see the pattern of, opportunity for sex if you're at home all night.
Well, I was going to say, talk about Netflix and chill being for real.
It's for real.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
it's actually
absolutely.
3 points. It's actually a point less.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's more like cable and chill.
Oh, you're right. Cable and
Yeah.
chill. I just wonder, I don't know if it's somebody who enjoys the comforts of home and like there's somebody who's like,
well, you're not going to have
snuggly
sex
and
while you're
relaxed.
out at a bar. So if you're home doing something, then you can have sex.
No, but guys, this is so interesting because
No, but
actually,
it's not the sex rate. It's not how much sex you're having, correct? It's the amount, the likelihood of having an
it's to have
orgasm.
sex.
Oh,
I thought it was orgasm,
well-
Lauren,
Well,
Yeah.
here it says orgasm
and sex.
And I think you're onto something because this is correlation, but not causation. In other words, just because people are watching more TV and just because they are having more sex doesn't mean that one leads to the other. Just like you're saying, it might be the kind of person who watches a lot of these things is home all the time.
Well, that's
and
funny you say
has a
that.
certain lifestyle that likes to sort of nest, and when you're nesting, you're having sex. So.
Yeah.
I was
that could be
just
it.
thinking about how like you guys have Gurgi and maybe people that have dogs are more likely to be home more too, and they probably have more sex than people.
Is there a
we
correlation
could
between
find that
pets
out,
and
actually.
sex? Yeah.
Well, the other thing is the kind of people who have dogs and cats and things probably are more nurturing.
Yeah.
And perhaps with the more nurturing, they want to nurture partner and nurture dinner and all of that rather than I don't know. I mean, I'm suspect of any real causation here because, the kind of person who's very adventurous and wants to go out all the time, it tends to be very high dopamine. And high dopamine kind of person triggers the testosterone system and is likely to be quite sexual. So I don't think we've gotten to the bottom of it, but it's entirely possible if you get on these shows, you'll have more sex. We'll find out someday.
I'm going to jump in for a second and tell you about something that I like to do to keep myself in shape. Beachbody On Demand. It's an online fitness streaming service that gives you unlimited access to a huge variety of highly effective, world-class workouts. I've been working on my core strength and toning up. I think you guys can tell. My stomach looks pretty good right now. And I've been enjoying the ability to find specific videos that concentrate on certain areas of my body. They have things like PiO, P90X, Insanity, 21-Day Fix, and T25. Love it. It's so awesome.
I know. And my favorite part about Beachbody On Demand is that you guys can customize your workouts because they have short 10-minute workouts, which are so perfect for me because I literally have 5 jobs and I'm like so busy. And I personally like to play the videos on my iPad or my phone. Like it's just so easy to work out now.
You definitely need to give this service a try. Right now, our listeners can get a free trial membership when you text GET IT, GETIT, all one word, no spaces, to 303030. You'll get full access to this entire platform for free. All the workouts and nutrition information free. Just text GET IT, GETIT, to 303030. Okay, let's get back to the show.
All right, so I want to know, you've been doing this for 8 years. What kind of things, what kind of trends in dating have you seen increase and what have you seen decrease?
Well, what we've really seen increase is more and more people are on the Internet, meeting people on the Internet. I mean, this past year in the Singles in America study by Match, and me, of course, only 6% of people met in a bar, 25% met somebody new through a friend, and 40% met somebody on the Internet.
Way to go.
And 59%, yeah. It seems to be, more and more and more, it's the way people are going of any age.
This is why I say I don't even care if I'm not going out to meet
don't
somebody
have to.
because I don't think that's a very
No.
highly likely way of finding somebody.
Only 6% if you go out to a bar.
6%? That's ridiculous. But that's because no one's going. That's
Helen,
'cause we're
did you
all
meet your
professional.
new
No, they
boyfriend?
are going to bars, but they're going to meet their friends. They're not going to meet sweethearts. They're going, and then actually they'll go. Young people will go to a bar and to meet their friends, and they sit there in the corner, like 10 of them, all on Tinder. So they might be going to the bar, but they're still meeting the people through the internet, even if they do go to the bar.
Helen,
so,
did you meet your boyfriend, your new boyfriend, on Match or online?
I didn't. I was going out with a man for the last 18 years, and so I didn't want to go on to Match or Chemistry or any of them because I already had a boyfriend. And then I met a new guy. I mean, he and I broke up, and I met a new guy just through business and everything. So, but I would end up doing it. I mean, I'm over 50, and the one of the fastest growing sites is Our Time, which is for people over 50. So. Match works. I mean, these things work. In fact, I did a study with Match last year in which we measured, don't forget, we are not polling the Match members. This is a regular, people from around the country. And we isolated those who were dating through Match, through the internet, as opposed to those who were not dating through the internet, just other ways, more traditional ways. And we found that those people who actually were looking on the internet instead of through friends and family and bar and this and that tended to be much better educated, much more likely to have had having a full-time job, and much more likely to marry. So I think people are getting the drift here that it's easy, it's cheap, as long as you follow some very simple directions. And by the way, these are not dating sites. I've told the president of Match, everybody agrees with it. They are introducing sites. They're not dating sites. The only real algorithm is your own brain. You got to go out there and meet the people. And once you do, you smile. The ancient brain clicks into action, and you smile and you laugh and you listen and you look and you watch and you parade exactly the way we did probably a million years ago. So
Helen,
these are introducing sites.
Oh, sorry. Helen, I love the perspective of introducing sites, but I want to segue into another trend that Ashley and Lauren and I feel very strongly about, and that is ghosting. I don't know if you know this, but we actually do a segment on our podcast called Ghostbusters, where we have a person call in that's been ghosted, and then we get the person that ghosted them on the line. And I think, obviously, this is an epidemic, and we are totally faces and advocates of busting people that are ghosting.
I don't know if it's an epidemic. I mean, I would imagine people were ghosting 1,000 years ago, 500,000 years ago. Let's go back to the American West. I mean, some guy pulls into Dodge in his big, stallion, and he woos some woman for a week, and then he gets on his stallion and disappears.
I would just tell myself that he died in that case.
Totally. I think it's just easier with technology now. So can you kind of go into what you guys found in this year's study as far as ghosting goes?
Well, we just found that, actually the data's not in front of me, it's in front of you. So, and I can't remember that part. But the bottom line is what really impressed me with it is all of these new terms. I mean, not only are all singles, they're really revolutionizing our language. They're adding so many words. I mean, in my day, people ghosted. There wasn't anything new about just vanishing. But they're labeling it now, and they're labeling, zombieing. These are people who are, they've ghosted you, and sure enough, so and so many months later, they show up again. And I do remember some of that data. I mean, they're not coming back to fall in love with you again. They may be wanting sex. They may just want to know what you're doing. They may be bored, and so they're checking in on something.
They're coming back to haunt you as a zombie. Well, I do want to share the ghosting stats for everyone listening because it's really interesting. So in your study, Helen, it is written that 43% of singles have ghosted someone, 43% of men and 43% of women, and 55% of singles have been ghosted, and that is 56% of men, 54% of women. And then you wrote...
So you may be ghosting prone.
It says that men feel more pain when they are ghosted rather than women because they fall faster than us, which is odd.
Right.
Why do men fall faster?
Yeah, why do men fall faster?
Oh, men fall faster in love for several reasons, but the main one is they're more visual than women, and also they've got a little less to lose. I mean, for millions of years, women, and still do, have 9 months of carrying the baby in the womb, and, childbirth has been dangerous through all of human evolution, and everywhere in the world, women spend more time with very small children until after the age of about 4. And so, women are the picky sex. I mean, men fall in love faster than women do because they're so visual. They fall in love more often than women do. They want to have more public displays of affection. It's called mate guarding. Men want to introduce a woman to friends and family sooner when they fall in love. Men want to move in sooner. Men have more intimate conversations with their wives than women do with their husbands because we have our intimate conversations with our girlfriends, and men are 2.5 times more likely to kill themselves when a relationship is over. So, I have been trying to tell the women's magazines this for 30 years. They are dedicated to the belief that men are all the scoundrels and women are all the abandoned victims. It's not true.
Right. Well, Helen, when you say they're more visual, so then is that more lust or is that real love to you? Because if they're falling in love more based on visuals, are you saying more they fall in lust faster or love faster?
Okay. We've evolved 3 distinctly different brain systems for mating and reproduction. One is the sex drive. One is the feelings of intense romantic love, and the third is feelings of deep attachment. And in our studies, we were studying romantic love, falling in love, who falls in love faster. In terms of who wants to have sex sooner, men definitely do want to have sex sooner than women do. Once again, for obvious reasons, they got quite a bit less to lose. She can get pregnant, and he doesn't have to suffer with that. So, but what we measured was falling in love, and it's a different brain system from the sex system.
Speaking of this and men falling in love, I think there's a reputation out there right now that guys are less interested in marriage than women are. So I want to know what the trend over the past 8 years has been as far as people's desire to get married.
It's amazing. Among the very young, in your early 20s, men want to marry more than women. This is what we've found. But when you get into your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, you get less, both sexes become less and less interested in marriage. And for obvious reasons. I mean, their reproductive years are over. And so, why do they need that to bear babies? So, on the other hand, 80% of singles today do expect to marry, and almost 90% will marry by age 49. So,
that's great news.
I'm so happy right now.
However, what's the difference in this year versus maybe the early 2000s as far as that 80%? Has that increased or declined?
That's a great question, Ashley.
Yeah, we don't. I don't have all that data on me. I mean, this is reams and reams of data. But from other studies, we are now finding that marriage is increasing. More people are marrying now. Divorce rate is very stable these days. It's between maybe 43 and 46%. It's not 50%. Highest divorce peak was in 1981. It's gone down considerably since then. It's stable, and people are marrying actually a little more. What's important to know is that they're marrying much later. And I call it slow love. What we're really seeing now is an extension of what I call the pre-commitment stage. In the past, I mean, you met somebody and you married them. Mm-hmm. These days, marriage is the finale, and what we're doing is this long, slow courtship process. They might hop into bed the first night, move into a friends with benefits, slowly begin to tell friends and family if it's working, slowly come out into the public, slowly move in and live together for a long period of time before they marry. And a lot of Americans think that this is just reckless. I think it's caution. I think they want to know every single thing about a person before they tie the knot. And that made me begin to realize, oh, wow, this long pre-commitment stage, you're learning a lot more about yourself, a lot more about sex and relationships and attachment, and you're getting rid of the people you don't want. So I began to think, okay, under those circumstances, maybe by the time you walk down the aisle, you actually know who you got. You want who you got, and you think you can keep who you got. So, in fact, I did a study of 1,100 married people because I thought to myself, well, if you're getting rid of the bad relationships before you ever, marry the person, maybe we're going to see happier marriages.
So that's what I was just going to ask you. I was going to say, So it's maybe a misconception that people aren't wanting to get married, and actually people do want to get married, but they're waiting later. And are we having healthier, more successful marriages because of this wait?
Yes, and what I did is I studied with Match 1,100 married people, and not on Match.com, but 1,100 married people, and I asked a lot of questions. But one of the questions was, would you remarry the person you're currently married to? Guess what the answer was?
Yes. Very high likely yes.
No.
81%.
Said yes.
Actually, let her answer.
81% would remarry the person they're currently married to. I think we're going to move towards more stability in marriage.
Yay.
Now, we've got a very long one. The other thing is, the later you marry, the more likely you are to remain married. I've got that data on through the demographic yearbooks of the United Nations on 80 cultures, so it's pretty solid data. On the other hand, the more we live to be 100, I think we will, that's going to be a counter trend where people are going to say,
Right.
plus, women moving into the job market. I mean, in the past, on a farm, a woman really could not leave. She didn't have the education. She didn't have the money. She couldn't cut the cow in half and take it out of town. They were stuck for life. These days, nobody's stuck for life. I mean, the biggest modern trend is women piling into the job market in cultures around the world, giving women much more economic power, sexual power, social power, the ability to stay in things that work, and the ability to leave things that don't.
All the power, Helen. I want you, because you kind of touched upon it a little bit, but can you move into another part of your study that's so interesting, and it's 3 different ways that people get into relationships, which I thought was fascinating.
I'm so glad you brought that up because, I've talked to a lot of people in the press. I think it's the most important thing in the study, and nobody has else except for you.
Huh. Well, Naz Perez.
I appreciate it.
I got your back, Fisher.
Excuse me. And what we found was that there are 3 basic roads to love. And the first is, I call it friends without benefits. I think the more common term is just hanging out. And these are people who, they go out in a group, they hang out together, and maybe they may kiss now and then, but it's not sexual, and they're just friends, and they're just getting to know each other for a long period of time, really, before they begin to date. And then the second route is sort of friends with benefits, having the sex with the friendship, but not telling people. And the third is the more traditional way of, just going out on a date with somebody. And what's so interesting about this is going out on a date used to be, in my day, it used to be just a look-see. It didn't mean anything. Oh, he's wanted to see what you're like. These days, it's taken on enormous importance. And so an awful lot of singles these days, and pressure. And these days, so singles will take a long period of time just getting to know somebody before they go out on the first official date. And, I began to think about that. I mean, in my day, I was home with my parents, and then a boy invited me out, and he would pick me up after dinner, and we'd go play miniature golf or go parking or something. And that was not very expensive. These days, when you ask somebody out, it could cost you $200 for supper. And so the first date is taking on enormous importance, and so that's why people are doing it later and later. They're having the friends with benefits or the friendships without benefits and getting to know the person before they go out on the first date. And that means that there's going to be fewer first dates.
Right.
And it's because they're more important and fewer people are willing to do it until there's something real going on. So, the newspapers are constantly saying, we're having fewer dates. Yes, we're having fewer dates because it's taking longer to get there, and they're more important, and they are much more of a symbol of, I think this could be a romance.
Helen, can we dive deeper into the friends with benefits category? Because that is what's most fascinating, I think, to all 3 of us here at the table, because we find that a lot of women, especially our listeners, find themselves in that situation, whether it's someone that just won't commit to them, or we have stories all the time about people that have been on and off for 13 years and then they get married. So can you just dive a little deeper on your thoughts and results from the study on the friends with benefits route?
And is that increasing as far as people who end up together?
It seems to be increasing. What we found, we asked a lot of years about, in the past we've asked, have you ever had a friends with benefits? And this year we decided to say, well, okay, we've asked that enough. Why don't we get into the weeds on this and say, what are these relationships like? And, something like 55% of singles have had a friends with benefits relationship. What's interesting we found this year is that when we asked, have you ever had a friends with benefits that turned into a committed relationship? And 45% of singles said yes. 48% of men and 42% of men. So it's basically the first stage. Casual sex is not casual unless you're so drunk you can't remember. It's not casual. You get to know a lot about somebody. You're driving up the dopamine system. You're more likely to fall in love. You're more likely to feel attached. So, but anyway, so this year we want to know, well, what are the rules of this thing? And so we asked people, and Yeah, well, we asked, should this be exclusive? And, I mean, are you having only one at a time?
Yeah.
And 59% of men and 74% of women, said yes, it should be exclusive. They also say that close friends are off limits.
They mean exclusive, like they're not. Yeah, you're right. That's a relationship.
That's a relationship. That's not friends with benefits.
Well, they mean what we asked is, can you have more than one friends with benefits at a time? And they say no. It's only close friends are off limits, and mutual friends are off limits.
Yeah.
And a condom must be used. It must be private. You got to use birth control. Only 30% say you're allowed to tell your close friends, whereas 59% of men and 66% of women say it must be private. One thing that was amazing to me is a lot of people believe, about 50% of singles believe that when you're in a friends with benefits relationship, you have veto power over simultaneous other friends with benefits. In other words, two people are doing this in the middle of the night, and one says, geez, I'd like to, do it also with somebody else, and the other person has veto power over that. So they also have limits about when they contact each other. So interesting because, I was in one of these, it's now turned into a real romance, but and a lot of this was true of us. I mean, I did want it to be exclusive. I didn't want him having friends with benefits with anybody else, and I don't think he did. We chose not to. Definitely mutual friends are off limits, close friends are off limits, et cetera, et cetera. So, all of these things have rules. It's just amazing how, when it comes to sex, people make rules, and we're digging into what this means. I mean, by the way, in my day, I'm a boomer, I'm older. We had friends with benefits, but we didn't call it that.
Right.
And once you name it, then you begin to have rules and taboos. And I'm very impressed with all these people who are really defining it. These days, singles want to define everything. In my day, it was very amorphous. There was no discussion of, were you sleeping with somebody else on the side, or can I tell close friends or anything? It was just sort of by the seat of your pants. You just were doing it. But now with the naming of everything, they have more opportunity, I guess, to define it.
I'd like to stop the show for a second and talk about BioClarity. We've been using BioClarity for quite some time now, and I'm so happy with the results. It's a 3-step cleaning and cleansing process that I use twice a day, but unlike traditional acne treatments, BioClarity doesn't dry or irritate my skin, and I feel positive and confident.
Yeah, all you need to do is just cleanse, treat, and restore. And it's that simple. BioClarity doesn't use harsh chemicals. It's also cruelty-free for all you animal lovers like us out there. We love that. And then in addition, of course, it keeps my skin calm and clear. We get so much feedback from you guys about BioClarity, and everything is positive. It makes me smile, to be honest.
I know, because it actually works. So if you guys would like clear, fresh skin, all you have to do is go to bioclarity.com. So our listeners will get their first month for only $9.95 plus free shipping. So you guys, that's a $20 savings, and it comes with 100% risk-free money-back guarantee. But you guys need to enter our code GETIT, GETIT, no space. That's bioclarity.com. Enter our code GETIT, GETIT, and let's get back to the show. Helen, do you think that if you are in a friends with benefits relationship that you should establish rules based off your study?
Well, I'm not really in the should business of what people should do and what they should not do. But I think every couple is going to go into these relationships sort of for different reasons. So I wouldn't want to say an overall thing. But I do think that the human animal does like to define what's fair, what's logical. And it is a bit, people get hurt in love. Nobody gets out of love alive. And I do think if we have some sort of standards for what is expected of us in various relationships, we might be either more cautious or more, happy to go into them if we really knew what was going on. And so I would vote for they're doing it whether we like it or not. They are creating rules. What I find so interesting is when we asked, do you have any regrets, 86% said no. They have no regrets that they did it. And I thought to myself, that's odd because, the human brain, you can fall in love pretty easily and get really hurt. But my guess is that, you're not spending a lot of money. You're not spending a lot of time. You're not investing in telling all your friends and family. So you haven't lost a lot, visibly lost a lot. You may have lost some self-esteem if the person dumps you or not, but the vast majority of these people go into it and come out of it with no regrets.
So our generation has the reputation of, not being very good communicators and being lost in technology. Do the studies show that we are less vocal or more vocal about our feelings than past generations?
I don't know if that's really measured properly. Everybody's so scared about this new technology. It's just absolutely amazing. Every time there's new technology, everybody's terrified it's going to kill romance or stop communication. It's just not true. I mean, what about in the early 1950s when the automobile, became, widely used? I mean, suddenly they had a rolling bedroom. It didn't change communication. What about the birth control pill or Viagra? Plato was scared that when writing came in, that it would kill the memory. I don't think it's killing communication. I can't walk down the street in New York City without dodging everybody on their cell phone talking to somebody. We are hyper-connected these days. We're communicating just fine. We're just doing it differently.
I got one more question. Let's talk about good sex.
Wait, oh my gosh. I got a couple. I had one more. Never mind.
This one's so interesting.
This one's good. Okay.
Good sex doesn't necessarily mean an orgasm. So the best kind of sex that women think is a caring partner.
Yeah.
And the most turnoff for everyone, like men, women, straight, is too much talking during sex.
That amazed me.
Isn't that so funny?
That
So it's
you?
like, don't talk too much dirty talk or anything. Just don't talk, and then you'll be fine.
I mean, I just want to ask the two of you, have you ever ran into anybody who talked too much during sex?
Yes.
Really?
I hate
What
it.
are they doing? They're just constantly chatting? How can they even think?
They're just like, do you like it? Do you like that?
Who's telling you this?
I will tell you later.
Oh,
Yeah,
right. I
Ashley,
can't wait.
She's not going to say.
I know.
It was Connor.
She's never slept with a Connor.
No. But yeah, that makes so much sense to me. But I think it's funny that men agree with that because I always think men want to have like dirty talk.
Yeah, I feel like they're far more vocal than women.
I think this is more referring to, and correct me if I'm wrong, Helen, the girl that's like, wait, hold on, and like,
Oh yeah, maybe. I don't know.
you know what I mean?
Well, that could be it, because that's interesting, because I thought to myself, I've been around, and I've never had a man who was yakking during sex. I mean, I like it when they whisper little things that are nice to you, but what, are they starting to recite the dictionary? That's never happened to me. But I think you might be onto something, because, one thing, women get intimacy from face-to-face talking. It comes from millions of years of holding that baby in front of your face, cajoling it, reprimanding, educating with words. We get intimacy from talking. We swivel into her face-to-face. We do what's called the anchoring gaze, and we talk. And I myself have struck up a conversation with somebody before sex, and I think what I was doing was just trying to reach more intimacy before I got into bed. So maybe that's what they're talking about. But, women, don't like men who are doing too much talking either. And I've never seen a man who did too much talking. But obviously, I'm out of it. Both men and women, the foremost things that both men and women regard as good sex is a caring partner and an enthusiastic partner. Those are the two top things every generation, every racial group, every part of the country. That's what they're really looking for. Somebody who's caring and somebody who's enthusiastic.
Okay. I'm into that. I agree with that.
You have one more question?
I do have one more question.
I have one more question.
Does everybody have one more? We're going to wrap the table one more
Well,
time?
no, there's one last topic I'd like to hit
okay.
before we
Then
close
yes,
off. So you
yes,
guys
yes.
go ahead, and then I'll.
Oh,
bring it
really?
up.
What's your
Okay. All right. There's like this thought that half of marriages end in divorce, but I'd like to clarify that. One, you said that the divorce rate was down, but don't your odds of a successful marriage go far up after you've been married post 25 years old and if you're college educated?
Yes. And for good reasons. I mean, the older you're married, the more you know what you want, the more you've got. I mean, these days people don't want to marry until they've got a stable career and a stable money flow and a stable life. I mean, in the past, people married very young and then tried to build career and family, and these days they want. I mean, women are going into the job market. Yeah, it is. And what was that second part? The later you marry, the more likely you are to marry. But there was the second part that you. Yes. Well, I think that's a very different thing. College-educated people have gotten a more stable lifestyle. I mean, they're likely to get a higher income, a more stable career, and simply be in a position to marry. I mean, if you're not financially stable and you've got a partner who doesn't have a job and you marry them, you may spend the rest of your life, paying alimony and child support or whatever. And so, they're delaying marriage until they've got a career and, settled.
Helen, that brings up an interesting point. I've been having a lot of conversations with my friends about this particular topic, and that is the woman becoming the breadwinner and how that affects relationships. Because obviously, as you've mentioned on this podcast, women in the workforce is obviously more and more. We are thriving. Gergie agrees. Has your study in the past 8 years have any statistics on women making more money and how that affects relationships or a relationship if she's the breadwinner?
That's a really good question, and I'm going to write that one down, and we're going to do that one next year. That's a really good question.
Oh, I got you, Helen.
Yeah. But I certainly have asked about feminism, and I did that last year with Match and Singles in America, and men are very enthusiastic about feminism. They feel that, oddly enough, they feel safer and they feel freer to be themselves, whereas women say that feminism has made them more picky because they can, I guess they feel as if they've got more power in the relationship these days than in the past. So feminism is affecting relationships. There's no question about it. Women still want men to pay the bill if it's a real date. And men actually still really want to pay the bill. That's a tradition that has not changed a great deal.
It's more about tradition rather than feminism when you want him to pay.
100%.
Yeah, I don't even think it's tradition or feminism. I think it's basic human nature.
Yeah.
For millions of years, women needed a man. I mean, let's go back 4 million years on the grasslands of Africa. She's wandering around holding a baby in her arm. She wants a partner who can provide and protect. And when a man pays, he's signaling that he's the right kind of guy to be her partner. So I think this is more primitive, more primordial, and I think it'll persist. But I know all kinds of women that make more money than their husbands, and every one of them has to, in some way, deal with this. And I ask them that because I make a lot of speeches on gender differences in the brain to high-power women in businesses, and they all seem to have a husband, and very often the husband is a primary school teacher or, he's an artist or something that doesn't pull in a lot of dough. And they all have to, in one way or another, work this out before they wed, so that isn't a constant issue.
I have one of the statistics that really stood out to me when I was reading your study was that in the who loves their look category, African Americans are the happiest with the way they look, with 72%, while whites report lowest level of body satisfaction with 56%.
Wow, that's so interesting.
I have no idea why that is. Please explain.
I don't really either, except in the past. People who had lots of fat on them were admired because those were the ones that had more money. Were able to feed themselves. Mm-hmm. When you go into a hunting and gathering society, a friend of mine went into a hunting and gathering society, and she was, a plump American, and everybody else was very thin, and they admired her for her fat because that meant that she could, eat anything she wanted. So
Can we get a DeLorean and go back to that time, please?
I was thinking that is it because
you can go
I
ahead.
hope this is maybe a little sensitive to say, but black men tend to like curves and a little more cushion for the pushing. Do you think black women feel best about themselves because they feel like they don't have to scrutinize every part of their body?
Yeah, I do think so. I think they are more relaxed for that reason. But white men really do not like skinny girls.
Yeah.
No, that's true. I know.
It seems to be a woman-to-woman thing, and I think in many respects it's sort of an advertisement that you can eat so well. And you're thin and white, that means you have enough time to get exercise. You have enough money to eat the right food. You've got enough education to know what to eat and what not to eat. You can go on vacations and relax, etc. So I think they're advertising different things.
This is fascinating
I love that fact.
Lauren and Ashley, actually just being friends with them, have like helped me embrace my curves. I feel like growing up, I always tried to like hide them.
And then I tell her all the time, like, guys want that ass of yours.
I think as Latin Americans, I actually feel like we are very, like, we tend to blend in to avoid prejudice sometimes. Like, I'll, like, avoid my culture because of that growing up. But is there any stat as far as, like, Latin Americans go on that?
No, just in that stat, it was just black and white.
So interesting.
But just the fact that they have the highest and whites have the lowest, you guys are probably in the middle there.
Well, I'd always have admired the Latin culture for being so embracive of curves.
Right.
Well,
I think more and more of the world, though, is going to come around to being thin. I mean, not thin, but sort of regular-sized. And I do think that, that's a slow-moving meme, a slow-moving idea, and that as blacks move into more of the middle class, they will adopt some of these middle-class attitudes themselves. So, and I do think, I mean, we all know that being thinner is more healthy. And so, I mean, as people aspire to positions where they can eat the right kind of food, have enough education to know what to eat, and have the time to do the exercise, I think all kinds of people from all kinds of ethnic backgrounds are going to adopt the hope for, thinner. Although, I mean, we've gotten pretty outrageous about it. I mean, we're getting too thin. But the bottom line is, I do think that it's going to be more and more admired around the world that you're regular size rather than obese.
I know. I love it. We're just so woke in 2018. Well, Helen, we want to end this fascinating conversation on the other part of your study that we found really interesting called More the Merrier. And I was really interested to find out that more women than men have dated people simultaneously. Can you kind of give us a little insight on that part of the study to wrap things up?
Sure. I mean, women are the picky sex, and nobody has that much time, and they're going to keep all their options open, and they can keep all their options open. I mean, women are very clever. Men are more straightforward. They're more tough-minded. They might be even more rule-bound. But, women are emotionally sophisticated, good at running several things at the same time. And they're taking this opportunity in their lives when they can do it to keep their options open. And I think it's as simple as that.
Alrighty.
Well, this was truly fascinating. You guys, this is Helen Fisher. She does a study for Match.com every year for singles in America. And Helen, I just can't wait to hear your study on women being the breadwinners next year.
I'm going to write that down right this minute.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us. I'm sure we'll have you back on because people,
if you'd come. Much. It was a lot of fun with you guys.
Take
care and happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Single Awareness Day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, that was fascinating, you guys.
It really was. I mean, I have a list of questions here that I still didn't get to ask. Like, I want to know how many people consider themselves friends before anything else.
I think that's actually in the study, and the majority of people have. The majority of people start with friends and then go.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Lauren read the entire study.
I read the entire
So, like, they don't start out, like, going on a first date. Like, this
They
is going to be a romantic
off as
thing. They
friends
start out as
for,
friends.
like, a while.
Then it evolves.
Yes.
Right. That's what she was saying, that there's 3 different stages to like getting in a relationship.
And the majority of today is
friends with benefits.
Friends with benefits. Or just friends with not even the benefits.
Yeah, that's just so total.
Yeah.
You're either friends with benefits or just friends.
Yeah.
So you don't start out your relationship as with the intent to be
When
romantic.
she was saying
Here, I pulled it up. Is this, Lauren, what you're talking about hanging out, which is a new phase of dating? And she wrote in the study, guys, hanging out has become a new path for single people to find companionship. Singles largely believe that a wider array of behaviors are appropriate when hanging out / casual dating than when you're on a first official date, which is true. There's so much pressure on the first official date these days.
No one does them anymore. Like that's what I was saying. Like, Mom, we're like, how many guys did you date when you were on? Because she would go on so many first dates because that's what they did. There was no hanging out phase back then. So it was all first dates. I'm like, how many guys did she just go on first date after first date after first date after first date? And she got married when she was 22. So she went on a lot of dates, But that's what it was then,
Exactly.
Like the mini golf thing, the thing that she was talking about.
Yeah, for us, we're like, there was this guy.
Like we were hanging out
knew this
for
guy.
like
I like
2
this
months.
guy.
Yeah.
I like this guy.
Exactly.
And,
I thought it was really interesting how she said we have to label everything. And I think as our generation or in the modern day, and I think that's so detrimental. I think if you, and that I'm totally like at fault for this, but I think if you just go with the flow, like we've all seen the people that stop caring or, it's when it happens for you.
The only reason I think we're so obsessed with labeling is because we live our lives on Instagram. And can I upload a picture? Can I not upload a picture?
Exactly.
And there's a list on her study that says when is it appropriate to tag someone? When's it appropriate to friend them? When's it appropriate to post a picture with them?
What does it say? We should share that.
In the different phases, it says.
Here, let me look that up.
While Naz looks that up, I want to discuss one thing. I think it's so important for some weird reason. This has always been important to me that people know that the divorce rate isn't 50% unless. Like, I'm glad that you clarified that because let's just say I get married at 31. So me as a 31-year-old grad school graduate degree.
Yeah.
My percentage of getting divorced is like what? It's like 20. It's like 20. It's like nothing. Yeah. So, but that's why I just think that a lot of people are like, oh, what's the point of getting married 50% and then divorced? It's like, no, that's the overall stat of like everybody combined. You're thinking about too many people who are bringing that stat down.
Basically, we learned also, we just gotta chill because we're smarter by just like, being our age and not already having 3 kids like a lot of people.
That's actually really interesting that she was talking about the more successful, happy, healthy marriages are coming out of this generation.
It's funny because this whole conversation with Helen made me feel so much more at ease. Because I'm like, well, I'm fine. I spent so much of my life in my 20s freaking out. I'm turning 28 in 2 months, and I'm like, I still haven't had a boyfriend. This is so depressing. But then I'm like, I am getting further along in my career, in my financial status. I am learning what I want, what I don't want. And hopefully the guy I meet is there too, so we'll stay together forever. I found some of the stats. Lauren, this is so interesting. So 36% of singles say it's now time to start following a date on Instagram, with another 33% who say they've already started. 34% say it's acceptable. It's now acceptable to follow the person you're dating on
That's after a first date.
Snapchat.
Right?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right, Lauren. I fucked up. So all of these stats are after a few dates.
A few dates, then you can follow in friend.
After a few dates, by this stage, most singles are all in for being friends on Facebook. 75% are connected and direct messaging them. After a few dates, 40% of singles say this is the time it becomes acceptable to tag them in a post, which I am actually terrified of doing. I don't know if I would do that. I think I would only tag someone if I was their girlfriend.
I just farted.
Lauren.
It was so loud, I thought the mic picked it up.
Lauren.
Okay, sorry, go.
Does it smell, Ash?
No, this is not a smelly one. It was so short and loud.
Oh, God. What do you guys think about that?
I think that
I'd be so scared to tag someone if I wasn't their girlfriend, but maybe I should be more confident and just tag them and be like, fuck it.
But then you freak them out
shit.
because, the only reason they would mind if they're still talking to other girls.
There's a difference between adding and tagging.
That's what Naz and I were talking about last night.
If you
Difference
added
in
him
adding
in the
and
caption,
tagging.
that would be like, whoa.
Yeah.
But if you tagged him, it's fine.
You think it's fine if you tag him?
Yeah.
Well, then he's in his tagged photos, which we all know women look at all the time.
But then it always gets misinterpreted as like friends.
This last stat I'll leave you guys with is only 1 in 10 singles think that this is the appropriate time to change your profile to a couple photo. So see, it's like kind of crazy if you do that. I think.
You have to be together for a while to do the couple photo.
That's what I read.
Right.
Wait, what's that stat?
56 thinks it's okay to put
a couple photo. At what time though?
No, it's only 1 in 10 singles.
1 in 10.
After a few dates, only 1 in 10
put a
people.
couple
I was
photo.
going to say you need to be together for like 6 months.
Yeah.
I agree.
Anyways, we could talk about this study forever. It is so fascinating. There's so much info in it, but we hope you guys loved it. And let us know on Instagram or Twitter or at info@Heartbroken Anonymous.
Or Facebook group.
Or our Facebook group, what you guys thought of this, what you found most interesting, what you want to know if we do a part 2. Do you want a part 2? And follow me and Lauren on Instagram. I'm at Naz Perez.
And watch my
Lauren
new
AI.
show, The Story of Us, on YouTube. Please.
Yes. Yes. And
All
come
right.
to Heartbroken Anonymous.
Yeah, all the things.
And go to Just Fab.
And listen to the Almost Famous podcast. And watch the Bachelor Winter Games.
And follow me on Instagram.
All right,
Bye.
Bye.
I don't get it.
Podcast.